All right, I think we're live. Sweet. How's it going, Kris? Welcome.
Yeah, good.
Hey,
Thank you
Nick's in the
for having
comments,
me.
Mark's in the comments. Yeah,
Comments,
cool.
I've
What's
not
up,
clicked
guys?
that. Hello.
Top tier name. That's sort of what I thought, except we were just talking, Nick, and it seems like Friday is kind of a hot ticket, like everybody's kind of doing a thing on Friday. There's a few big streams that I try and avoid, but there's always going to be something. And me and Kris thought, you know what? Let's just do it. And if people catch it on the replay, that's all cool too. Because oftentimes there's stuff that I want to catch on Friday as well. And, you can't. So we're doing it now, regardless of who's here. And we're just going to hang out. I just wanted to talk to Kris and have him on. And I've been stalking him on Instagram. We've become buddies and
It's just
stuff. So I
20
wanted to.
questions for me, isn't it, mate?
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. This is your interview. So to see if we can be friends. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anyone that will watch this that doesn't already know you and your channel. But if you want to introduce yourself and let people know what you do on YouTube, go ahead.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Kris. I'm from the channel of Fictional Escapist, and I mainly read and review SFF, indie, and self-published books. But I occasionally throw in a few other books because otherwise Theo wouldn't be friends with me if I didn't read historical fiction. So occasionally I do that.
A little bit. It's funny because you think I read a lot of historical fiction, and I've been definitely on a kick for that, but I'm not very well versed in historical fiction. So you and I can kind of go through some of the more popular ones
Newbies
together. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I would consider myself still, a newbie for sure.
Thanks,
So
Mark, for being here and throwing in some Aussie rep in the comments.
yeah. So for people that don't know, you are in Australia, and it's like 10 in the morning right now.
Yeah.
So it's November here in Canada, on the west coast of Canada, and it's raining and it's gloomy, and it's actually turned quite cold almost overnight, because we had a really kind of mild October, believe it or not, with a little bit of rain. And now it's just like it's like winter basically. And so is it summer there now? Is it gearing up to be quite warm? Like,
So
what's it going? Yeah.
it's spring at the moment, but basically I feel like Australia has two seasons. It's hot and hotter. But at the moment it's very muggy and humid. We've had a lot of rain recently,
Yeah.
so there's
Yeah.
a lot of muggy humidity happening. So if you see a sheen come across my face,
Yeah.
it's definitely sweat.
Yeah. It's I've got the heaters on. I got a hoodie on. It's a little bit chilly, so if I start to sweat, it's probably that. It's also probably this beverage too, making my cheeks rosy and giving me a bit of a sheen too. But what's up,
Theo's
David?
on the
How's it
vino.
going? I'm on the vino. I'm Greek, so I have to a little bit pretend like I'm an adult with taste, right? So, Cal, what's up, man? Congrats on the book, by the way. I've been meaning to order it. I was gonna order actually a signed copy. He's sending out some signed copies, and I think I've been following Cal for a while. We started on YouTube about the same time. He's obviously busy. He's a teacher and he's an author, something that I couldn't do. And I'll be asking you a little bit, Kris, later about how that is. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, Cal. I appreciate it. So have you ever been to Canada, by the way?
No, so when I was in high school, a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, came in from Canada. I've never been there, and I was like, "What? Who is this person? What is this accent that is coming out of this person's mouth?" And I
Yeah.
was 14, but no, I've not
Yeah.
been there. I need to
No.
ask you what a bear claw is because I'm still confused. So
Yeah, but I don't really know. It's like a chocolate sandwich donut thing.
Mark,
I'm
stop
pretty
outing
sure.
me.
Oh, geez. Yeah. So it's funny that one of the things that, and I'll ask you a little bit about booktube and stuff too, but one of the things that I found pretty interesting was when you first hit record and you watch yourself back. It's different because you hear yourself speak, but also you watch yourself and you watch your mannerisms and stuff. And it's kind of a trip at the beginning. And I hear myself speak and I hear this Canadian accent that it makes me cringe sometimes because I'm like, I sound like them. Because I grew up with immigrant parents. Both my parents immigrated from Greece. I'm first generation like Greek Canadian. So I'm the first one that was born here. So, I identify as like Canadian for sure, but I have deep rooted Greek, blood that I'm proud of. And so growing up here, I'm definitely like, that's how I sound. Like that it is what it is. So I'm definitely Canadian, and it comes across a lot more than I thought it would, to be honest. So
It's interesting because I am Australian born and bred, but my heritage is Italian, and there's a lot
right.
of that Italian heritage that seeps through to now. So it's interesting being, someone who identifies as very much an Australian but still has a tie to another culture, another country.
So you understand what it's like for sure, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you and I can be friends, because we're basically cousins. So it's the same
That's
thing.
on you.
Yeah.
That's on your checklist, right? You just tick something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
European, check. Good. Yeah. I'm curious, Nick, where do you live? What is your exact address? Post it in the chat. You say you're close to Canada. I'm wondering where you are. You're in the States, obviously, and you're probably just over the border at some point. Cal. Yeah, sounds good. I will. That'll be awesome. Mark hasn't been to Canada either, so no one wants to come here and hang out. That's interesting. Okay.
We want to. We're just intimidated because it's cold over there and we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Near Seattle. So Seattle's just a couple hours away for sure. So, yeah. How was Halloween? Did you do anything for Halloween? Like, did you dress up and stuff or not? Do you guys do Halloween over there?
Here in Australia, I think we all like, ooh, it's American. Why would we do that? But it's a big thing for the kids. So when I was driving home from work, because Rachel and I live in suburbia, there was a whole bunch of kids and families coming out. I was like, oh no, quick, get the chocolates out. Not chocolates we haven't bought for children that we just have for ourselves. We did have a few families come through. They thought that we were cool because we gave them stuff. A lot of people didn't tell them to go away. Well, they put the effort in.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the whole Canada thing. Like I've always wanted to go to Australia, and a lot of people from Canada have been to Australia and travel there. It's a popular place for us to go, but it's really far. And actually the thing that it's so expensive, like it's very, very expensive. And that's one of the things that prevents us from going, really. It's crazy. Like we're going to at the,
right now. There's so many snakes out here.
I saw in your video, did the snake person come around and take care of that or what?
That was embarrassingly a legless lizard that I paid $125 for. But he was like, oh, it's an endangered species that you have. And I'm like, that's cool. Get it out of my house.
Yeah, because you said it was a super poisonous snake that you guys saw, right?
As soon as you see brown, you basically lock the doors. You're like, no, don't want that anywhere near me because it'll kill you in 2 seconds.
Wow, not cool.
Am I selling Australia tourism?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, Nick, come up. We'll talk about it around a campfire for sure. It'll be cool. I'm about 50% into it. I put it down because I know that it's just gonna clog up my whole month, and I got other stuff I've committed to. But I'm really enjoying it. I don't know why it took me that long to read it, to be honest. But you've read it, right? You've read it, yeah.
I have, yeah.
But
many moons ago.
So I was gonna say, how old were you when you read it? Because it seems like a lot of people have read it when they were a lot younger, and a lot of people have read it again when they were older. But I don't know a lot of people who've read it for the first time as an adult, as an old decrepit man like me.
I think I would have been in my early 20s. I started.
Okay, that's young enough.
When I was maybe 13, 14, I picked up the first Stephen King. Yeah, but it was definitely one that I was intimidated by because of the size and waited a while to get to.
Huge. Yeah. We don't have a lot of people come trick-or-treating here, actually. I mean, there are certain pockets. It seems like, you know, what happens here is every year it's kind of a running joke. On Halloween, it basically rains every day. So it can be sunny before, sunny after, but like Halloween night when the kids want to get dressed up, it usually rains. And so there's pockets of communities that the kids just blast the houses. They go to the malls. They go to the cul-de-sacs. They hit as many houses as they can, get all the big full-size chocolate bars they can, and then run home and watch movies. So that
with it, like hype them up on sugar and send them away.
Yeah, and I also feel bad about the kids that, you know, they wear these beautiful costumes. These little girls are in these big puffy princess costumes, and then they got to put this big rain jacket on and kind of walk around and stuff. So it's like, take off your jacket, go door to door, and then put the jacket back on. So it is what it is. But we had fun. We had a bunch of people over for like a Halloween party, and I dressed up as Sebastian, and my wife was Ariel, and the cat was Flounder. I think I showed you the picture.
I saw, and the cat looks so unimpressed.
He was really pissed. So we put on the costume, and it has like a little hood that's the fin and all that stuff, and all he could do is just back up into corners to try to get it off of himself, and it was actually pretty funny. But we had a good time. We watched some horror movies and stuff on in the background, played some music and stuff. It's good. I like the fall vibes. I like the Halloween atmosphere and stuff, even though we don't always dress up. This year was kind of special, but every now and then we do. And we always have a good time. I like the vibes for sure. So I like fall just in general. Like, you know, do you guys get, like, it is summer there, but do you guys have like a winter? Do you guys get like a proper cold, snowy winter over there? Or is it just
winter here is, David, I've seen you comment. I think that's my fault and that's my issue on this end, and I have no idea how to fix it because I suck at technology. So I'll just yell into the camera. And
I'll see if I can turn them up for sure.
So we do get winter, but it's like 8 weeks of the year. We sort of get periods where you can wear a t-shirt and periods where you can wear a light jumper and be comfortable, but it doesn't get super cold here.
Right.
Oh, hey, Rachel, my wife's in the chat. She's here to make sure
Hey!
I'm not saying anything I shouldn't.
Yeah, awesome. Sweet. We got some people here. So Rachel's your wife.
She sure is.
That's awesome.
She's also my tech guru, so if it's really bad, I'll just get her to come in and play with stuff.
Good. David, let me know. I turned Kris up a little bit, so we'll see if that we'll see if that helped, by the way. Yeah, I'd really like to go out to Australia. It's very expensive to go from here. We are going in December, basically right around Christmas, and then into New Year's. We're going to Florida to Disney World. We're going for the first time. Never been to Florida, never been to Disney World, and it's very expensive to go from the west coast of Canada to the east coast of the United States is very expensive. So that trip, I think we're doing about 10 days in Florida. We're doing a couple days in Universal, 8 days or whatever in Disney World. And I think for that amount of time, we could probably do like 2 weeks in Europe for like the same price. 2 weeks in Italy or something. It's disgusting. Yeah.
All the travel that Rach and I have done has been domestic over the last couple of years. We haven't really gone out of the country. So
yeah.
I think she wants to take me to Italy. She's been to Italy before. I'm like, I'd like to go, considering it's, where my bloodline's from.
Yeah. So do you know where in Italy you're from? Like your parents are from? And are both parents Italian?
No, so my dad is half Italian. It's my poppy that's full-blooded, and it's so full-blooded that it just seeps through into the rest of the line.
I love it. Yeah, it's strong. It's strong blood.
Yeah. He also drinks red wine out of a coffee cup in the morning. Not that I'm doing that, Mark.
It's hard to tell. I'm just saying.
It's the weekend.
We have no proof.
So.
Yeah.
Hey,
Shad.
They're from Barney, which is sort of like the ankle of the boot shape.
Gotcha. Cool.
Them and the Sicilians don't get on, and I was like, just be friends with everyone.
Interesting.
No one needs
that's
to hate
awesome.
everyone here.
Hey, Bonnie, how's it going? Yeah. Hey, Rachel. Nice to kind of meet you, I guess. But yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. Good, Shad. We're doing okay. I was going to. So actually, I kind of glossed over Nick's question. So. Everybody meet Kris. Welcome. And he wants to know what your favorite book is. Now, before you answer, I don't like these questions because I like Nick, but I find these questions difficult because I'm not very good at the favorite. I never had a favorite color. I never had a favorite song. My tastes vary so wildly, and I am very much a mood person. And I want to say mood reader, but I'm kind of a mood listener, mood doer, mood whatever. And I take a little bit of pride in that because I do have a lot of hobbies and I do kind of, have a wide taste and stuff. So those questions are very difficult. But at any given time, I could probably tell you what my top couple are, right, off the top of my head. But do you have a favorite book? Do you have a favorite author, favorite series, favorite
very
genre?
Similar to you. I just tend to flip. I like most of the things that I read. So I don't have a huge favorite. My favorite, Nick, would probably be The Stand by Stephen King. And I haven't read Swan Song yet, so I don't know whether that's going to knock it off the list. But the reason for it, I don't like the ending of The Stand, but then again, I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King endings. I think he does slice of life stuff really well, and I love that aspect of it. But The Stand was such a complete atmospheric picture for me of what this world would look like, and it was just so intense. And you can get sucked into this world, even though it's a 1,300-page book. If you get the unabridged version, it's so long. But for like 1,000 pages of that, it's very gripping. So that's probably my favorite book off the top of my head.
Yeah. Are you sure it's not another book by somebody else? Possibly.
Oh,
Maybe.
Father Spear was really good.
It's funny. So I haven't read The Stand yet either, and I have 3 copies of it, and my wife wonders why. But I know I'll get to it. I have a special edition and some other ones, and I have a first edition, and I haven't read it yet. I'm saving it again because it's so big and so intimidating. I chose it as the first, fat one to read, and then I'll do The Stand. The reason why is also because I read Swan Song, which is my first Robert McCammon book, earlier this year, and I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I hear from a lot of people who've read both and who are Stephen King fans, I should say, a lot of them prefer Swan Song in some way or another. Not all of them, but a lot of them have that opinion. Yeah.
So I bought Swan Song and I gave it to my dad because he
Okay.
was a big Stephen King fan. So I used to steal his books from under the house, and that's where I would get the Stephen Kings from.
Yeah,
And I've
yeah.
since stolen them all and put them in my house, so he doesn't have them anymore because I nicked them.
Yeah.
So I bought Swan Song and I said, this has been compared to, which I found off booktube, this has been compared to Stephen King. Do you want to give it a go? So it's sitting in his bookshelf. He's a teacher. He doesn't really read until he gets the holiday breaks, but I'm sure he'll tell me his thoughts, and then I'll read it.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll see my dad on booktube while I'm living there because he's a show pony. So he's definitely going to be in some sort of video. He wants to be in the
amazing.
spotlight.
Yeah, that's amazing. Hi, Jen. How's it going? Nice to see you. 3 copies of The Stand. Yeah, you can cuff someone to death with The Stand. Yes, that is true. David also does jujitsu. I don't know if David's still in the chat, but what's up, man? If you're still around. But yeah, those are big. Those are big books, and it's weird because psychologically, you look at that book and you're any book, you just you pick something up, you want to read it, and you look at the size, and automatically the wheels turn, and you go when would I finish that? And then how many more books could I read if I start this one? And the other thing too is I don't want to start a book and put it down. You know what I mean? So, and books can take me a while because I'm not the fastest reader, but I'm also quite busy, and I bounce around between doing, between reading and other things. So it's hard. I have to really commit. And I was pleasantly surprised with it because it just, the Stephen King books he's so good. And he's such an expert that they're big and they're kind of crazy, but they read fairly fluid and fairly quickly, I would think. I would think most people would agree with that. And so I just got hooked, and the first 50%, which is 550, 600 pages, flew by. I was pretty shocked. So I'm okay keeping the other 50%, knowing how quickly it'll read and knowing how much I already liked it.
It's pretty much split down the middle anyway, so you got 2 separate storylines, so you'll be fine to leave it for a while. And
yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing for sure. I was going to ask Mark. I was going to ask him the same thing, actually. Is that where you get the show?
This is not my first YouTube channel.
No, I think you've mentioned that before. So how did you get into YouTube? What was your first? I think I know what your first YouTube channel was, and you can talk about that if you want to. But how did you get into BookTube, and why? What made you pick up the camera one day? You obviously read, you obviously write, but why BookTube?
My wife was like, please talk to somebody else about books. I can't listen to you anymore. Go and find other friends.
Makes sense.
But I think I was... So my first channel, for people who don't know, I'm FTM transgender, so I was assigned female at birth and I identify as male. I started a channel because I transitioned as an adult. I initially started a channel for people who were questioning their gender later on in life, who weren't kids, and shit, I've been through a whole life, now what do I do? So, Rachel, you did not. And then I went down this rabbit hole, and I was just watching YouTube all the time, and then Daniel Green popped up for some reason, because I was looking at books.
Right.
And he's not my favorite booktuber, but he was the first introduction, and he was talking about...
if you're on BookTube, he'll pop up in your face, for sure.
Yeah. And I was like, these books sound great. Ironically, not a big Joe Abercrombie fan. So sorry, everyone in the audience, but it is what it is.
You're not a huge Joe Abercrombie fan?
I think it's good, but it's not my favorite.
Neither am I. So we just lost 100 subs each, but you know what? It's fine. Let's keep rolling. It's fine. I'll edit this out. Just kidding. It's live.
I saw him and I was like, you know what? I can talk about books, and because I was getting into... I really like the obscurities of any genre. So once I discovered indie books and all of these fantastic authors that have done this journey themselves, I was like, I want to talk about these books to people and get them noticed, because there are so many fantastic stories out there. And this is to answer your question as well, Shane.
Yeah, please. That's a good segue.
On the screen is having these authors interact with me, and it's just been such a wonderful experience. Like, I need to tell their story so that other people can experience their stories as well. There's a whole world out there. If you're only reading trad published books, there's this other complete minefield of media that you can go and consume. So it's my passion. Like, I love indie fantasy and indie authors.
I find, I'm gonna sort of not play devil's advocate, but I'm gonna say something that I've heard a lot of people say, and this is coming from someone who's just catching up with a lot of the big series, big fan. I would say I'm primarily fantasy. I like to dabble in sci-fi. I've realized that that's not my bread and butter. I'm really a fantasy, I think, person, and historical fiction and horror, but sci-fi is a little ancillary for me. But for somebody who reads mostly that, there's so much out there, and I fall into the trap as well of having like FOMO, of not wanting to steer away from the traditionally published stuff that's so popular, to go and read indie stuff that may or may not work. And what I mean by that is, it has some of it is exceptional, as you can probably attest to, and then some of it is less polished, because there's such a wide range that falls in there, because it's not as there's not as much oversight, there's not as much editing, there's just not as much for some of it. That can be a generalization. So have you just read enough of everything where you're like, I have time to read all the indie stuff? Is it the passion that keeps you putting that at the forefront? Or
yeah, for sure.
Do you read so much? Like, are you so fast at reading that you're like, doesn't really matter, I'll read 100 books a month anyway, so who cares?
I think you and I are very similar. I don't read particularly fast. If I get 4 books in a month, that's awesome. If I get more in, that's great. Audiobooks definitely help that. But I think because I am so passionate about the indie world, and this is why I've created a business in this world, because I think there are so many stories within people that they want to tell, and writing the first draft is, it's the hard part for the author, but then there's so many other steps that need to take place until you can publish that into the world. And everything's marketing, right? So a publisher is going to look for someone who has marketability. So if you've got 3 or 4 books that you're ready to go and you can get it out by a certain date, a publisher is more likely to go, I can sell that, and I can sell it over time and make money from that. Whereas if you've got someone doing a passion project who just wants to get the story out in the world, it's then this huge expense for them. Like, people spend tens of thousands of dollars and get a return of $1,000. Like, they're just passion projects. So I find that that's probably why indie can, fall under the radar a little bit. It does have a stigma around it as not being as good, which is complete BS in my opinion, because there are some indie books out there that are fantastic. But you're right, it is very expensive. So some people will forego things like editing and use programs like Grammarly or Pro Writing Aid, which are good to guide, but they're not the be all and end all. So that's why you can find some of those indie books that don't seem as polished. I don't know if I answered the question, or if I went up on a tangent. Sorry. Yeah,
for sure. Well, speaking of someone who wrote all the books before, I think, getting them published, it was Joe Abercrombie that did that. I think he had all of them, right? I really like. My thing with Joe Abercrombie is, I still think about some of those characters. The audiobooks were incredible. I still think about Stephen Pacey's Glockta for sure. It didn't really do for me what I thought it would. Like, it was fine as a story. I think the characters were exceptional. I think the dialogue was some of the best. I think his writing and his wit is probably second to none, to be honest. But I was like, I could have done without that story and been totally fine. Nothing really grabbed me about it. And I wonder if it was me. Like, I wonder, thinking back when I read it, how I was feeling, like where I was in my reading journey or in life, what day of the week it was. I question myself sometimes, because I'm like, I don't really get it,
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And so I picked up the first law. It was one of the first books that I bought before even coming on to booktube. And I read it and I was like, you're right, the character work is exceptional. He excels in character work.
Oh my God, so good. Yeah, Totally.
in snappy prose and wit. I haven't read anybody else who can do wit that way, where it's not so much, it's not funny, haha. But it is clever the way that prose is written,
and the internal dialogue stuff too, which is tricky. Yeah,
absolutely. But then every time I finish a Joe Abercrombie book, I was like, yeah, that was all right.
Right. They're not bad, but I don't know if I would go back and like read The First Law again. I want to, because I feel like I'm broken because I don't like it as much as other people, but not for the enjoyment. Yeah, exactly. So what's your what's your involvement with SPIFBO and SPFC and all that kind of stuff? Because you're very involved with that kind of stuff right now, right?
Look, nothing yet, but I'm hoping that next year I can get on a judges panel.
On the panel or whatever? Yeah.
So
I know you're passionate about the groups, but...
Yeah. So SPF introduction to indie fantasy, and I think one of the first people I met was actually Mark Timoney, who's in the comments, and picked up Blood of the Spear. So he has an amazing cover done by Felix Ortiz, and we all love a good cover. So I'm like, great, going to read that. But then going further and further into it and interacting with Zach Argyle, he has an excellent website for SPFBO, which in my opinion is better than Mark Lawrence's, even though he runs it. Zach's website is much more approachable, and just getting into a lot of these authors are just, they're all passion projects, and I think that's what I love about it, is it really comes from a place of passion. And the SPSFC only started last 2021 as a sister competition to SPIFBO, because SPIFBO, a lot of the sci-fi or sci-fantasy that was being put through in SPIFBO was getting shafted, not necessarily because they were bad books, but because it's a fantasy-based competition. So you've got fantasy readers. All your judges are purely fantasy readers, so they're not going to judge a sci-fi book as highly. So I thought, you know what, this is such a wide genre with a whole bunch of subgenres that in there, so let's make our own competition. So I've been with that one a little bit more from the inception of the actual competition.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to apply to be a judge for the SPSFC next year. SPIFBO is a little bit more widespread. You've got a lot of bloggers who do that sort of thing, whereas the SPSFC is a little bit calmer. So try and get in there. I think Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads is one of the judges in there this year.
I thought and he hasn't done it before, I believe, right? He's another person that's really tries, he's a community builder, and he is very involved with all those competitions and stuff. And if it wasn't for you to really, at the forefront, I probably wouldn't have as much indie stuff on my TBR, to be honest. Like every time you guys get so passionate about stuff, I'm like, oh, like I should, once I read Lord of the Rings, I can get to all this shit. So yeah. Nice to have you, Roger, by the way. Yeah, you know what? It is. So that's a very good point, because traditionally published stuff, and I think this is what she's referring to, and also what Mark touched on, is they publish what's safe, and they stick with kind of what works. And sometimes it can get stale for a lot of people, especially people maybe not like me, but people maybe like you that are more prolific and read a ton more and a little bit of everything. You are looking for something kind of different and something special, right? And if you stick with trad published stuff, like it's not going to be always what you like, or it's going to be too much of the same, whether you like it or not. So
I don't think trad published is necessarily a bad thing. I think it gives a lot of people a gateway into getting back into reading, because they are so hyped up. And I own a lot of trad pub stuff, and it is a backlist, but I find what happens is I will get caught up in hype trains and FOMO. I'm like, oh, this book's coming out from Orbit, looks fantastic, I'm going to buy that. And then I'll get approached by an indie author and be like, hey, I've got a book coming out, can you read the blurb, see if it's something that you would like? I'll normally push a trad pub book for an indie book. Like even this month, I did my TBR, and 2 days later I had an author that I have interacted with quite a bit say, hey, I've actually got a book coming out at the end of the month, do you want to be on the art team? I was like, crap. There goes Final Strike. Sorry, Roger.
Yeah. So I'm gonna I'm gonna call Roger out for calling me out. Okay. So Roger, I adore Roger, and him and I talk quite a bit. And I made a comment. I think it was on my city. It was a wrap up, and I think he knows where I'm going with this if he's still around. And I talked about City of Brass by S.A. Chakrabarty, and I enjoyed it. but I made a comment in passing without very much extra thought or care, I think, that it felt a little bit YA to me. And I didn't qualify that statement very much, which I should have, because I'm an adult and I have a brain. What I meant by that was some of the tropes that typically are found in that genre, and some of the focus on, the characters' priorities and their focus on emotion, and that driving their, actions and stuff like that, are a little bit more what a young person would do, and typically what a YA protagonist may or may not do. So what do you think about do you read a lot of YA? Do you think that, what's your opinion on that as a genre? And it does get crapped on a lot, and I'm kind of taking his comment a little bit in a different direction, but it does get shit on a lot. And after talking to Roger a little bit about that and kind of explaining myself and stuff and having a good discussion, like he and I often do, I started thinking, because I hear that an awful lot, that oh, that's too YA. And I recognized in my wrap up, for example, that I probably wasn't the target demographic for that. I'm a 35-year-old white male that happens to like fantasy books, and this was something that was unique, and it was kind of a desert fantasy. It was summertime. That was the vibe that I was in for, like genies, gin, whatever. And it just didn't do what I was hoping. And so yeah, I fell into that trap a little bit. Do you think it's a genre that's probably I don't know, it's not given a fair shake usually by people?
I think YA is so friggin' important for
it is for sure
people. I personally never read a lot of YA, even when I was a kid and a young adult. I went straight from kids books to adult books. I didn't really stick with the YA genre. I do think it gets crapped on quite a bit. I'm not a YA reader. Every YA book I've picked up hasn't been for me. I've gone through puberty twice. I don't need to read about it again,
Right. Now, I will jump in and say one thing, that it does get shit on a little bit by people that maybe don't read it as often, and people that maybe are hoping for something else. YA has a huge audience and has a ton of people that are all for it and respect it and appreciate it and whatever. But again, for someone like me, that's not the target demographic. It's easy to crap on it without the extra thought that probably should go into it as to maybe why that book didn't work. And it's probably not because it was YA specific. It was just the book for other, because there were a bunch of other reasons, but yeah.
I read, what's the one I read from Sarah J. Maas? That was YA that I just...
A Court of...
I couldn't do it. I don't know what it was.
Thorns and Roses? Yeah.
But,
people want me to read that.
Please do it. It's a vlog.
So that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like people want me to read it because they know it's not for me. They know I'm going to shit on it. It's going to be fun, but it's not fair, I don't think. Right? So I try and be... Yeah.
I was like, for the
she's got enough fans. She doesn't need me. Yeah.
For who she's writing for, it works really well, right? So it's all got to come from the mindset of the target audience.
Yeah,
you and I
100%.
were not YA target audiences.
Right, for sure. I'm super excited, Nick. I'm going to read A Song of Ice and Fire for the first time in January. That's going to be, and I'm reading it in that huge read along with Joanna and Yolene and a bunch of people. Have you read it?
I've read the first book and I never continued on with it, so I think I'm going to jump on the read along.
You know what's funny is I thought there would be two camps. I thought there would be people who've never read it, which is probably the minority. I think that's safe to say, and then people that have read it, enjoyed it, are in love with it, and this is a reason in a big group of friends to reread it. But in fact, there's a lot of people that have read like 2 or 3 or 4 out of the book, out of the whatever, and are like, you know what, I'm gonna try and get through all of them this time. And I was kind of shocked about that.
Now, at the moment,
who is
Roger? I think he's doing to a read.
Yeah, he's on book. I think he was on Storm of Swords, I think, and he's reading it alongside Madison, who I love, by the way. So yeah, I think I'm jealous because I would have loved to read it alongside them too. But reading it in a group of people that have already read it and really enjoy it, like, which is going to be happening in January with so many people, that's, I think, the best time for me to jump on. If I can't read it with these guys, I'll just jump on in January, because I want some vets to be there for theories and questions and stuff. So yeah.
Have you watched the show? I'm not a huge TV watcher, so I think I watched like 3 episodes and it was like, okay, cool. I'd rather.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did. So I never read the books. And then I watched the show and got hooked. And I'm not a huge TV person. In fact, I went years without watching very much of anything. And even now I'm very selective in what I watch, because me and my wife have only a certain amount of time. She works a little later than I do. I'll cook and stuff and get dinner ready. She comes home. We only have an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe to sit down and unwind and stuff before we got to call it. So we are very selective. But for a while there, when it was popular, I was watching it. And I got to season 5.5, like maybe into 6. But I didn't watch the last 2 seasons. So I which I'm actually thankful for, because now I don't have anything tainting my perception, and I don't have anything to really compare to. It'll pretty much follow the show, kind of. I don't really remember the show, but then it won't diverge as drastically as maybe for some other people who've read and watched the entirety of both. So yeah.
Experience. I definitely liked book 1. But
so I hear so many people that like this is their favorite series of all time, their favorite books of all time. There are a couple of videos out there on booktube of people's favorite book of all time, and like, what is it Storm of Swords was like on a lot of people's lists. Like, it was kind of ridiculous. A lot of people consider that like their favorite book of all time, or their favorite or the best fantasy book, which is crazy. And so many people love the series that doesn't even have a conclusion, that it makes me realize I'm missing something. It's crazy. Like, how can you love something so much that's like not even, they're like, it's the journey. Like, fuck the ending. It's like, it's so good. So I can't wait to see what I think.
Fans right now.
Yeah, exactly. In favor of Martin, I'm assuming yeah. Blood of the Spear is a great read. Yeah. I will. I promise. I will. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Roger. We love
awesome.
You. I can't
cool.
believe you've pulled Lord of the Rings for this.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. I'm curious, Roger, and I know I'm behind on the comments and stuff, but I'm curious how that's going. I want to read one thing. So I put out my TBR for November, and I totally forgot that like I didn't include the Fellowship of the Ring. That was one that I'm going to try to fit in, because I had to bump some stuff to rearrange and keep people happy and stuff, and stick with what I've committed to. So that one is because I have a little bit of time off, and again, I have time off, but I'm like filling it with shit as usual. I'm helping my friend paint, and I'm helping build some stairs. Like, it's just whatever. But I do have some.
Playing PlayStation to you.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I wish I could just sit back and chill, but yeah, I filled it with stuff. So if I have time, I'll read that book for sure. And I am going to do the one a month probably. I have a beautiful like bind up of all 3, and I'll probably just do the one a month and stuff. And but have you read Lord of the Rings? Yeah, this will be the first time.
I read it for the first time last year. And
really?
I read so I suck at audiobooks. I do use them, but if I'm reading a new series, I have to read the first book physically to get the picture in my mind, and then I can move on to audiobooks for the sequels. Yeah.
So I need to have both. Not all the time. If it's an easy book, I can do audio, but I need to have both, and then I can slowly shift to audio. Like, once I see the names, once I see the countries or the places or whatever, then I'm okay. So yeah,
my favorite thing is reading a book 1 physically, and then listening to a book 2 and knowing that you pronounce the names wrong the entire time in your head, because
and then it's hard to like change it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, no, that's just it. Yeah. So Roger says that it's one of the best audiobooks he's ever listened to. I think that makes sense. Yeah, you should try it, Mark. So Andy Serkis, obviously the guy that played Gollum in the movies, very good actor, and there's actually kind of behind the scenes footage of him that you can find doing the audio and recording it and narrating it, and he gets like so into it and so passionate and so crazy that it's just like you just want that passion for sure, right? But Orbit is the biggest risk taker. Yeah, would you agree with that?
Agree.
That Orbit's doing some good stuff for sure. Yeah.
They also sign a lot more diversely than some of the other trad pubs.
Yeah. Totally. I'm not a young adult, so I bet it just won't work for me. So that's what I used to think too. But again, I think that statement can be considered as maybe unfair. But it is true that some genres just aren't going to work for you. Like, I know that I'm not going to pick up a romance book and go like, yes, like these are my books. You know what I mean? Because like I like other stuff. But if you like fantasy, it could very well be the case that a well-written, you know, for all intents and purposes, objectively, like, which is hard to say, good YA book that's fantasy could work for you. I think that could be the case. Like, I read the Six of Crows duology, and I had not read the Shadow and Bone stuff that she did, like the Grishaverse stuff first. I just read the duology, and I really liked it. Like, I really enjoyed it because I like fantasy, and I like good character work, and I like interesting magic systems, and I liked the world and like the canals and the kind of the European, you know, vibe, and I liked the heist plot, and I liked that kind of stuff. So just because it was YA, like, you could have told me it wasn't, and I would have been like, oh, okay, cool. Like, but eventually I understood that it was, but I really liked it. So there's some YA that I like, and there's some that I just haven't. So I would say, I mean, I wouldn't break your TBR to go pick up a YA book if you are not traditionally a YA reader, but some of them might surprise you, because I've been surprised for sure. Yeah, a lot of variation for sure. Yeah. And a lot of people think, okay, like the protagonist is, a teenager, so it's YA. Like, for example, I read the Nevernight trilogy, and I thought it was really good. I mean, it fell a little bit short in some of the books. The first book was incredible. I really liked the world. I really liked the kind of old, like, Italian setup, and I loved the magic system. It was very, very interesting. I just like the world. I like being in that land. And it's definitely not a YA book, but like the protagonist, Mia, is a teenage girl at the beginning. She's actually quite young at the beginning, and then she kind of grows into her powers and stuff. But you could tell someone that's a YA book and they believe you, and they'd be wrong for sure.
I think there's like a stigma around like coming of age is automatically YA because your protagonist is quite young, whereas that's not the case in a lot of adult fantasy. You've still got a lot of coming of age in adult fantasy exploring these different themes, but I would agree that YA is super important and super at the forefront of, was that English? I don't know, of exploring some of these themes, which are quite important to start having conversations about when your brain starts to develop in that way. There was one I read recently for George Ander called To Those We Found, and although it didn't work for me on, at the base level, some of the themes that came through, like he is a gay man, and he had this exploration of, and some of the trauma that surrounds coming out and things that he'd gone through in his life that he'd put in the book. And those themes were so important. It was like, once I finished, I was like, I wish I'd read this when I was, questioning my own sexuality in high school, which I just buried deep down.
Right.
And it's like, this would have been like, okay, well, maybe it's not as bad. So it is so important for people to have access to these stories, to be able to explore things in their own life. Yeah.
Well said, I think. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Jen, I saw that you're going to be in that. I think, I watched your video, and I think you've read the first couple and didn't DNF, but you didn't finish. And I think now you're going to go back and see. You're one of the people I was talking about that are going to go back now and try and read through the whole thing with a bunch of friends, which is, I think, the best way to read. So, wow,
5 times.
Yeah.
Damn.
So that's what I'm thinking. So Nick, chime in and let me know what your favorite A Song of Ice and Fire book is, because I'm pretty sure it's Storm of Swords. Book 3, correct? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, 5.5. Yeah, I think if you got to like, to be honest, Nick, I think I started season 6 and I was like, and to be honest with you, and I'm probably gonna go to jail for saying this, but I got to a point where I got caught up, and then I didn't have access anymore, so I started to have to download them, and I didn't like having to do that, and I did a couple of the episodes, and then I just stopped, and I was like, whenever this comes back out, whenever I have money to like pay for, I think it was HBO, whenever I can get back on watching them, I'll do that. I think that's what guided me to, or that's what steered me to just leaving it. To be honest, it was because of that. I had to download them, and it didn't really sit well with me because I don't like prison. Hi Anna, how's it going?
You're so wholesome, Theo. Oh, the old piracy in Australia ran rampant when Game of Thrones came out.
Yeah, it was probably crazy for sure. Yeah, so do you do a lot of like readathons? Because it's something I haven't really done because I feel like it's too much of a commitment, but they always seem so fun, and I think when I have a little more time in my schedule, maybe next year I might do 1 or 2. So
I do the Indie Accords. That's the only one I've done. The reader,
right, of course, yeah.
And was hard to read 9 books because they're all fantasy, so they're like friggin' long books that you've got to get through. But that was a lot of fun, and just interacting with people. Like, it's the same reason I like buddy reads, is because you get to interact with people reading the same stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I've only done the one readathon. If it comes out, if the Indie Accords happens again next year, I will be doing it again.
Cool.
I wanted to jump on the Stephen King readathon, but I just didn't have time in the
that was one where I'm like, ooh, that one would be kind of cool, to be honest. Yeah.
But I feel like you can only read so many Stephen Kings at once before you're like, all right, I need a break.
I need a break. And that's exactly what I was going to say, is because I not only you can get burnout from a particular author or even genre or whatever, but I just like to bounce around. Like, I'm a little bit, I hate using the word, it might offend people, but I'm a little bit like reading ADD a little bit. Like, I need distraction. I need to like put stuff down and try something else. And then I need to like bounce between 2 or 3 books at the same time. And then sometimes I need to just step away from something altogether and try a different genre. So, that's just how I roll. And so for me to commit to like an author for a month, it would be really, really tough. Yeah. This is a Merlot blend or something. This is like a Cab Merlot, I think. So FYI, very distinguished gentleman over here.
What are the notes in the glass?
It's very fruit forward. There's some tannins in there, and it's definitely red-ish. So that's all I got. Storm of Swords. See, that fucking book. I can't wait to read that. I cannot wait to read it. Yeah. So that'll be good.
It sucks if you hate that book, because everyone loves it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So like, what if I hate it? Do I just shut the channel down and say, you know what? I had a good run. I made some friends. I pretended like I knew what I was talking about, and that's good. Or
and people love it.
I come out with a rant review, shitting on that book, and I bet you I'll get 10,000 followers over fucking night, because that's typically what happens. No, I'm not. Definitely not chasing subs over here.
That you are hosting next year is going to be intense.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about, Kris, what that's all about. Is it Cosmere or is it Stormlight?
No, it's the whole
thing.
I think he's doing, yep.
So I wanted to reread Elantris because I read it like when it came out, like it was 2000 something. And I read it and was like, okay, cool. But at the time, Brandon Sanderson was like nobody, and I didn't read a whole lot of fantasy. A friend of mine recommended it to me, and it just didn't really do much. That being said, I think I'd like to try it again because I'd like to read through all of Brandon Sanderson's stuff. I've read a lot of it. I haven't read Stormlight. And that's kind of where I want to read Stormlight next year, but I have so many other series to get to that I think if I defer it to the start near the end of the year, I can read through it by the time the 5th one comes out in like a year and 2 years, whatever. So I because of that delay on book 5, I'm not really in a huge rush to read it anymore. But that would be a good time to do it.
Super intimidating.
Oh my God. Hi, Nikki. Yeah. And it's funny because I got this goddamn beautiful signed copy of Way of Kings. Never read it. Like, it might be shit. I don't know. So.
You don't touch those books, right? I paid like $200 to get Tom Dumrell's Pillars of Peace omnibus. I'm never going to touch that thing.
No. So let's talk about this. So you're one of those people that you buy a collector's edition, a signed copy, whatever, you leave it sealed, you leave it closed, you don't read from it.
I read the ebooks, and I'm not a big rereader, so I'm not going to pick it up, but I don't tend to fork out a lot of money for special editions because I prefer reading paperbacks anyway. So I'll 9 times out of 10 just buy paperback because it's my preferred reading.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
I do not care as much as many other people about pretty editions, but I've followed Tom Dumrell since he was writing, throughout COVID, and it is beautiful. It is a stunning book. I'll have an unboxing in my next vlog because I couldn't figure out what to actually talk to people about. It's like, look, pretty book instead. Yeah. But yeah, it was just so stunning, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll give you my money. And it was the first broken binding book I ever purchased as well.
Yeah. I have yet to buy something from the broken binding. I really want to, but I haven't found anything. I was going to buy some John Gwynne signed stuff, because I quite like John Gwynne, and it just didn't work out. And I don't know. We'll see. There's some nice. Is it Grim Oak Press that's doing the Fateful and the Fallen series? I can't wait for that shit. That'll be sweet. That's my jam. So that'll be good.
All
right, see you guys. That was good. We had a good run. Yeah.
Look, I actually have
No,
a
there.
message for you, everyone on your Discord channel. So I just need to give you a message. So I'm just gonna
Oh God, yeah. So, fuck. Where is
read
it?
it.
It's somewhere. It's right. It's right in there. And
Yeah.
actually, Chris, I started it. I read the first chapter last night or the night before. I'm kind of fun employed right now until I start my new job on November 14th.
Yeah.
So I don't know what fucking day it is. But yeah, I started reading it and I'm like pretty intrigued by the writing. It's very different. But then I was like, I need to get Kingdoms of Death done because we're doing a group discussion with the author as well. So I have to, I'm committed to that. But I would like to just, because I've been reading a book a month of Sun Eater and it's going great, but I'd love to just put that down and switch over to the other one, but I'm kind of time constrained on that one. So it is what it is. But do you like N.K. Jemisin? Like, did you like that series?
I never read it.
Or are you just being an asshole?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. You're just being, totally get it. That's awesome.
It was
Yeah.
on my list of things to read this year, and it just never happened. So I get it. It gets pushed.
Yeah, I have the trilogy, and it's been on my list for a while. And then RJ picked it for me, and like why not? So, yeah, soon. Trick is really the host doesn't have the time to concentrate that hard and on how well your stuff is. Yeah, I mean, and I've been told by people that have hosted readathons and stuff like, no, we'd love to have you totally like read one or two of them or like follow one or two of the prompts or whatever, and like you don't have to do the whole thing. So, but I like if I'm going to do one, I'd like to do one kind of completely or try to. So I can't just do like, oh, I'm just going to read a book with like a bird on the cover. Like, cool. Like I can't just do one of the prompts. I got to do like the whole, I don't know why I picked that. Whatever. I'm hammered. So don't listen to me.
I mean,
yeah.
is that Merlot blend has really gone to your head?
It's awesome. And I haven't eaten for a while. So there you go. But yeah. So I'm curious about your view on, because I think was it Chris Moen put out a video a while ago, recently actually, about the star rating system, and kind of contested it a little bit, the fact that it can be kind of shit. And obviously Goodreads doesn't allow us to really rate things the way we'd like to, because it just kind of gives you a hard whatever. But what's your opinion on it? Do you rate stuff? I mean, I've seen you rate stuff, but like,
yeah, I tend to rate stuff. I don't put ratings because I have made a pact to like review every book I read on Instagram, whether I like it or not. And I won't put ratings on there because I don't think it's fair to the author if a book didn't work for me, but there are elements that might work for other people. So I'll just talk about those.
Yes, right.
I do rate things, and I like ratings. I like following people who have tastes that align with mine to see what they rated it, to see if I'm going to enjoy that book. But I think the system is sort of, I guess, redundant at this stage. I think when we have so many people who critique books and talk about books and review books in the way that they do, those are going to be more beneficial to find out whether it's going to work for you or not. But personally, I rate and I use things, but I have my own scale. So instead of a 5-star, I rate different elements of books that I enjoy.
Right.
So I've got 5 or 6 of those, and I'll give that a score out of 5, and then whatever the end result is what the rating will be.
Okay, so you don't just off the top of your head say, that feels like a 4. You'll say, okay, the world was this, and like magic system was this, and characters was that, and writing was this, and then you just kind of derive a score. That's probably more accurate, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe a little more objective based on your subjective criteria.
I've got 7 criteria. I've got plot, world building, magic system, characters, pacing, environment, and prose. So whatever equates to at the end of the day is what the rating will be, or rounded up or down to. Did you
say world building, and did you say environment? Can you distinguish between them? Is it like atmosphere, or is it?
So general feel of the worlds that we're in, because some books will be in one section. So if we take, for example, Threadlight from Zach Argyle, the first book was very much situated in one area, in my opinion. So we didn't have a whole lot of world building there, so I would rate that as an NA, but we did get a lot of the atmosphere and the environment of that section. So I would rate environment over world building. Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. I've never really heard anyone talk about like environment. You hear world building all the time, but not necessarily environment or atmosphere or vibe or whatever. But yeah, hot take video on Storm of Swords, that would do pretty well. I think you'd gain a lot.
I'm not a very like, I don't want to say I'm not a controversial guy, because like I kind of am, but I don't want to make a video deliberately for that. Like if it really came to a point where I disliked a book for not rational, but justifiable and explainable reasons, like I would do a rant review, but I'd be very delicate with it, and it wouldn't be a deliberate hot take on what I know to be a popular book by the general public, and it wouldn't be for the purposes of getting subs or whatever. It would probably be like a genuine, like, hey, this didn't work for me, like here are the reasons why, and like I don't understand why it's so popular. That's why I like to do the unpopular opinions tags and things like that, because it's quick little hot takes. You don't have to bash anybody. You don't have to do a whole review. You know what I mean?
So I did not like Illborn by Daniel T. Jackson, and it got so much praise as a indie book. So that was that was my first review on the channel where I was like, I don't get.
I've seen it everywhere.
Understand. Yeah. I have loved this because it had like a delicate rant review that Roger's put in the chat. Not like your Sarah J. Maas review that you did. That was funny.
Oh,
but I think there are ways to go about it where you're like, this didn't necessarily work for me. Here is why you might like it if you like these elements.
Yeah. Roger was very ranty about Sarah J. Maas. So that was fun. Oh, Baron's here. Right on. How's it going, Andrew? Nice to see you. I'm just I don't know what context this is.
You're going backwards.
But yeah, in honor of Kris's Italian heritage and my Greek, I'm going to be doing a gyro and red wine giveaway on the channel for sure. Oh, for 1,000. Yeah, totally. I'm curious. So I'm curious about your opinion. So, everyone does these fucking Q&As and all these things, whatever. And I'm actually like right around the corner, surprisingly, from 1K, which is crazy to me. But I have been asked what I'm planning to do by like 2 people. No one really cares. But there's 2 people that are like, hey, what are you going to do? What should I do? Because what I was going to do is have my wife on and have kind of a joint Q&A. I might like have to build another shelf over here and like might do that, whatever. Like, I don't know what are Q&A. Do people like that? Q&As and stuff?
Your secrets. That'd be great. I'll watch that.
Totally. Yeah. I'm not his wife. He's paying me. Listen, we all have our thing. It's fine. Yeah. See, exactly, Nick. See, thank you. Thank you for being a real friend. See, people care. People care about me. Yeah, I don't know what to do. To be honest, I think I'll do a Q&A. I'll probably invite my wife on too or something, just to give you guys a peek behind the curtain a little bit, and for her to make fun of me for having 1,000 people that pretend to like what it is that I do. She finds it hilarious that this is even a thing. And I kind of do too, to be honest. So, yeah, Andrew, the move went well. Yeah. Yeah. Kris, have you moved yet? Are you still moving? You're still in the process. Yeah.
Let's congratulate Andrew on his new house. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
But no, we haven't moved yet, so I'm still on this backdrop, and you'll see it for the next couple of months. But I'm 31, and I'll be moving with my parents again. Love that.
Yeah, but it's strategic. It's for a reason. Yeah.
It's just because like everywhere at the moment is being hit by recession, right? And the cost of living is going up. So it made no sense to be here for another 6 months and pay, double the rent that we are at the moment. So mum and dad have a room. We'll go there for 6 months. We'll save some money, and then we'll do the move.
Good.
To Perth. So
good. That's the right thing to do. Yeah. And then you know what's the silver lining there is, you're gonna go back. You're gonna spend some time with your family. They're gonna love you. It's gonna be nice. You're gonna be able to spend time with them, and then you're gonna appreciate your own time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very quickly, you'll be like,
I'm done. After the 2 weeks, I'm like, this is not what I want for my life. But my mum has been fighting me on taking rent money because, it doesn't matter how old you are. Your parents are always going to think of you as children. It doesn't matter if you're 30.
Yeah.
I'm like, Mum, we've got 2 full-time incomes. You really need to be taking some money from us.
Yeah. Just to cover us being here, like the wear and tear, the heat, the like food, whatever, right? So
we live in Australia, right? The aircon's going to be running.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I see a lot of people. I think I had another. So a couple of people read from their special editions, and I read from them too. What I typically do is it would be rare for me to have a special edition of a book that I really enjoyed, because that's kind of why I would buy one, where I don't have another copy of it. So what I would do is I would read the other copy, or read the special edition if I can, or I would read the other copy and then just go and flip through and look at it as I go through. Like I'll read 3 chapters and then I'll go into the special edition, flip those 3 chapters, look at the pictures, kind of smell it, whatever, and then put it away, and then read a couple chapters, wear and tear, and then go back and look at the special edition up to that point and look at the pictures and that kind of stuff. The ones that I did, I mean, the cheap ones that are all over BookTube that are really nice are the Robin Hobb ones, the Farseer. They're amazing value for what you get, and they're really, really good. So yeah. I like those ones. Yeah. You know what? It's funny. So I put out, I don't know if people are just being nice, but I put out a poll, and nobody chose giveaway. Nobody chose, you know what, give me a giveaway. I even did a Q&A plus giveaway combo, and people ignored that too. I think to be nice to me, because they're like, well, we don't want him to have to spend money and send us stuff. But I recently did a Patreon giveaway, and guess what I gave away, Kris? You probably know. It was Joe Abercrombie's Red Country. Yeah. Because that's what she really wanted, and I had a beautiful hardcover of it, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to read this. Like, I just bought it like an idiot. So.
I'm pretty sure, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, but Red Country was the one that he really enjoyed, and my tastes seem to align a lot with Andrew's, so I'm like, maybe if I get to that one, I'll start enjoying Abercrombie.
Yeah. How about a cooking show? No one needs a shirtless cooking video from me. Now, what is interesting is I do cook. I quite love to cook, and I think I'm okay at it. So yeah, I could see myself, like, if BookTube gets boring and doesn't become I'll just start a cooking channel. Why not?
I also like to cook. Maybe it's just
do you?
the European.
Is it you that cooks, or does Rachel cook, or do you both share it? Like, who does what? How do you guys divide that?
This, can you put in the comments who cooks? That'd be funny. No, I'm
so there's proof. Yeah, me too. And it's not that my wife can't cook. She can. She can bake quite well. I can't at all. But I like to cook, and I think it comes from me being home earlier than her. Me also being able to work from home here and there. So I'm just home, and I'm waiting for her to come. So why not have dinner ready like a good husband, right? So
poor Rach. You just last comment that came through.
Yeah, it's yeah. I get it.
I've seen Rachel cook. It's dangerous to be in the kitchen if it's happening, and just safer for everyone if it doesn't occur.
Yeah. Oh man, you know what? I want to read. I don't know if fantasy westerns will do it, but I want to read Lonesome Dove. That one is one that people say I should read as a western, and I just haven't yet. So I think I'll be. I'll be. If only Farseer was half as good as those editions look. Assassin's Quest was the best book of that trend. No, I'm just kidding. He hated it, but that's okay. I understand why people didn't love Assassin's Quest.
I can't do Hob either. I'm with Roger.
So what have you read from Hob, Kris? Like, how far did you get?
I read Assassin's Apprentice, and I got halfway through the second book, and the fifth shat me to tears. So I just. Yeah,
I can understand that. The end of Royal Assassin is pretty crazy. Now, Roger says that it wasn't as crazy as people think. I mean, he was a little bit like, okay, whatever. I found it to be pretty, I don't know, impactful. I think it was pretty well done. But yeah, the last book, I took a long break between books 2 and 3. So I think that allowed me to appreciate it and have some patience for what it was trying to do. But yeah, I don't know. I just, it was good. I'm going to go to Live Ship, and then we'll see where it goes. Cause I hear the rest of the series is incredible. So, this is good for you, Kris, for, as an author, right? Like, but do you think, are you wary of people reading your book, Kris, eventually and saying like, oh, this is what his intent was, and you like maybe misconstruing it, or
in
like,
10 years
worried about that?
Actually publish the same thing. No, not really. I think, my works in progress are very much for palate cleanser. It's palate cleanser fantasy. There's
a very good place for that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not writing these big epics because it's not my strength. It really isn't. I can't give people the massive battles that they want.
Right.
So I think, people are going to go to Palette Cleanser Fantasy this year. Rachel will talk.
I was like, hey, dude. Like, yeah.
Nah, I know. There's a story about all the books that Rachel owned before we got together.
Oh,
So
geez.
it's very much, what I'm writing is very much like I need something quick and easy to break up a lot of the epic
I love
stuff
it.
that I'm reading. So
I love it.
let's have something fun. Let's go on a quest. Let's do it in 300 pages and move on with our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I love it. So what's the update? Like, you're obviously doing a lot of sprints. I catch you on a lot of those when I can. You usually sprint at like 3 a.m. for me. So by the way, when I don't catch you, that's why. Because my wife will roll over at 3 a.m. and go, "Why are you watching this random dude write books?" Like, so
normally the sprints nowadays, because there's so much other stuff going on, unfortunately it has taken a back seat. But so I started writing a novella, and I was like, I'll just do a novella series. I love episodic novella series because they're super quick and you get them out quickly.
Yeah. Totally.
And then I hit novella length, and I was like, I've not scratched the surface of what I'm actually trying to do here. So I had to put that aside because I'd world builded so much. I was like, people are not going to have any fucking idea what I'm talking about. So I then had to go back and start writing the actual prequel novella.
Right.
And so I'm about halfway through both of them. And the idea would be to release them together. To be like,
Sweet.
You can have 2 for 1. They're here.
That's pretty cool. Are you at all interested, or have you read Daniel Green's stuff? Not to get too into that. We don't have to talk too much about other people. But have you? Are you curious about that?
I have read the first one.
You did?
Up to one whole. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't look. He was ballsy. I didn't like the marketing approach that occurred for the book. I don't know if there's any like Daniel Green lovers in here. I appreciate what he does for booktube and what he does for fantasy.
Yeah.
I think he's
hard to ignore for sure.
Yeah. I thought the first book wasn't good. The best bit of it was like the opening chapter, which was a ballsy and dark opening chapter.
Right.
And it just did not have it didn't grip me. I didn't care at all. So it was 90 pages, and of those 90 pages, I could have been like, I have lost 2 hours of my life reading this. So
right.
And I thought of going back and trying Rebels Creed, and I'm just like, I don't want to read it again because it's the same story from a different perspective.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
So the first half of it is the same story from a different perspective, and then you move on.
Oh.
I will go back to him with his new book that is being published through Wraithmarked later in 2023, and I will try it to see. I mean, I'll always give an author a second chance, right? Like a first book's always going to be not that great unless you're some superstar at writing, like Mark Timoney. You have to give me credit for saying that, Mark. But I don't think my first book is going to be excellent, but I hope to learn from that experience, right? So everyone's going to get a second chance in my
Of course. Yeah. Good answer. Yeah, sorry, Andrew. I was supposed to read David Gemmel's Lion of Macedon with Andrew. We actually spoke about this a couple times. And then I basically threw Andrew's friendship out the window and was like, it's fine. He's just some booktuber that I talk to sometimes, and decided to get bullied. I got bullied by Alan, who wants to read it, and he was like, "You have to read this with me because these other people didn't wait for me, or they're not like I can't read it with them, but they're enjoying it, and there's no way that I'm not going to read it, and they're reading it, and I want to talk about it. So someone needs to read it with me," and so he basically forced me to, at the expense of Andrew and my relationship. So it is what it is. But we can read Lonesome Dove. And actually, I thought, part of me thinks you started it, Andrew, but actually I think that was Troy. You read that Troy trilogy, I think it is. And yeah, I thought you actually started and read Lion of Macedon, but I'm obviously wrong. So I'm curious, why can't you just jump on it with us? Do you not have time for it this month? You read, I think it's like 89 books a month on average. So
Andrew
why
is
not, man?
Reading
Let's get back to that. But Realm of the Elderlings. You know what? I think a lot of people like that kind of back half a lot. And so I'm curious why maybe you didn't.
Was that the Rainwald Chronicles? I know a lot of people don't.
No, Rainwald is after, I think, Tawny Man. No.
Right.
Yes. It goes Farseer, Live Ship, Tawny Man, and then Rainwald, I believe. So I think Andrew actually didn't mind Rainwild as much, but yeah. So I'm curious, David. Yeah, I know it could be a little bit long. I don't know how Andrew reads that much, but if you ever want to feel bad about yourself, just watch an Andrew like fucking wrap up, and he's just like, here are the 37 books I read this month, and then
here is the library, here's the shelf that I read in 30 days.
First of all, I don't understand how he has books he hasn't read that he owns. But second of all, yeah, like he runs through them at a speed, and then he proceeds to do a like insightful, well articulated like wrap up where he actually talks about them and gives them due credit and talks about what like he's just an asshole. So it is what it is.
Sorry, Andrew, I don't believe that. Can we still be friends? And see you.
Oh, I get it. I see how it is. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, I screw up the whole language thing like within 5 minutes. So if you haven't seen the beginning of this, I started that. So
Theo started this. Look, I tried to put the Australian down, but
it's not 100% my fault.
You blame the Merlot blend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope to read Live Ship. I think I'm going to be doing a buddy read of Live Ship starting January. There's a ton I want to finish by the end of the year, and then in January is kind of busy too. But I want to read Ship of Magic, I think is the first one. I'm really excited. People say that it's amazing. Mike's reading it right now. He's loving it. Didn't actually think he would, but he is. And so people are like, you have to.
There's a condition for reading the Live Ship traders, and that is when you come out of it, you hate anyone by the name of Kyle. That's all I know.
So
I have some Kyles I like.
Yeah, if you already don't hate Kyles, which most people do, now you'll definitely hate Kyles.
Apparently.
Oh God. Yeah. Apparently there was a joke that we missed. Did you catch a joke? I didn't read it, but oh God. What's up, Baron? Baron and I started off this year as quite close. We're quite good friends. And then he didn't like the Winter King that I think I recommended it for him. So the relationship's complicated on Facebook right now, so it's fine. Yeah, I feel like shit too, Nick, because I literally watch his videos and then I'm like, why am I even doing this? Why did I hit record today? There was no point. Like, who am I trying to impress? Like, fuck.
Anyway. He throws the book out the window. Like, I read one book. Fuck it.
Yes, 89, like a month. Like it's crazy. And you're like, oh, I call bullshit. He didn't read that. No, he did. He did, and he can tell you all about it because he's very good at words. So yeah, I've heard Rainwild is kind of the one. Back to our point about kind of YA. I heard that she was guided by the publishers or the whoever to target a little bit more YA for this one, and so it reads a little bit different, and it hits different notes, different themes and stuff. And apparently, it's still a very good story, and it's still beautifully written, like Hobb is capable of, but it hits different. And I think that was why. So that'll be interesting with that whole YA thing in the back of my head now, trying that one eventually. But what was the last five-star book that you read?
The Wolf Den, I think, by Elodie Harper.
Oh yeah, you gushed about that one quite a bit. I actually I didn't watch that, didn't finish that video, but you were gushing about it as far as I remember. And you said, is there a sequel that you said you wanted to read too?
Yeah, The House with the Golden Door is what it's called. Yeah, it's just come out. It doesn't come out physically here until like mid next year, but yeah, the Wolf's Den took me by surprise. But I think it was what I needed. You know when you read one genre for a little while, you're like, I need something different. So
yes,
it was able to completely take me out of that mindset.
Sweet. Beautiful. Yeah, that's awesome. That one I keep seeing actually, and I keep meaning to try that, but of course I read like a book a year, so there's no
I think it would depend on what you like in historical fiction as to whether you would enjoy.
This one's about like the women, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it follows
without giving much away.
Yeah, it follows Amara, who is owned by a brothel in Pompeii, and it basically follows her journey through that experience. And there's not a whole lot of plot, in my opinion. It's very much a social study of this one person, and we do things throughout the book, but we're following her and her.
Right. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. The answer to that is, so Andrew told me this, so this is 100% truth. He sold quite a large house that he owned very proudly and downsized to a very small house and took the equity, cashed out, and just is buying books nonstop and is going to marriage counseling because obviously his wife's not thrilled. But that's how he's like, fuck it, I'll sell the house and I'll just build more shelves. So that is 100% truth, not lying at all. Yeah, I can't wait to get to live ship, you guys. Live ship, yeah.
Interesting. So,
did not enjoy the first one. Interesting.
Roger, you and I have already been through some traumatic experiences together, so let's read this book together and see what we think.
Yeah, so I'm curious now, do you know, Kris, what that's in reference to? Because I really don't know anything about it, but I've actually heard this same sentiment before. Is it relationship stuff? Is it sexual stuff? Is it parental stuff? Like, what's the trauma? Because I've heard that before. Yeah, maybe Roger can chime in, but yeah, interesting. Poor Kyle.
Poor Kyle.
Josh swore off Hob because of Assassin's Apprentice, but I've heard so many great things about her from many booktubers. I've decided to give live ship a try at some point. So maybe if you're around, Josh, you can try it with me in January. I don't know if that gives you enough time, but it probably does. And so it's worth trying that first book. But I would caution you and say that if you haven't read the rest of Farseer, I think a lot of people would agree that you probably should finish that trilogy. And if you didn't like Assassin's Apprentice, it might be a tough trilogy to finish. If she just doesn't work for you, then that might be difficult. But yeah, for sure. Driving. Yeah, Baron's on the road. He's busy. Put your phone down. Yeah. Arrive alive, Baron. Arrive alive. I mean, yeah.
This is true. I don't get 5 stars very often.
Yeah, I mean, you don't shit on books a whole lot. Like, you're very respectful. I think you're pretty good.
There's no point, right? Someone's put their life into these books. You know, it's not fair for someone to come along and crap on it. But
well, you also know what you like now, right? You're pretty attuned to like what you like. Yeah. Cycles of violence. Yeah. What? Yeah, crazy. Well, I think it depends on what people consider that. You might just be taking it as a story, but sometimes people pick up on themes and pick up on different things that resonate with them and might not resonate with other people. But yeah, so I'm excited to try that. I keep hearing people gush about it, and I think it was Madison that said like it was her, like the conclusion to that whole series just like completely blew her away. So I'm very excited.
I don't give shit reviews.
Yeah.
You can tell the books that I don't like all that much on Goodreads because there'll be like a 3-sentence review as opposed to paragraphs and paragraphs.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Now that I write for Epic Indie, I tend to save all my indie reviews for over there, and I'll just be like, go look over this website to see if you want the actual review and not the 3 sentences that I've chucked here.
Right. Yeah. Do you do a lot of reviews on Goodreads? Like, you obviously do BookTube very well, but do you spend a lot of time on Goodreads writing the reviews too? I find I can't keep up with everything.
This is going to make everyone realize how much of a nerd I am. After every book, I want to talk to you about this actually, is because I'm also not an annotator or a note taker while I'm reading books, and I would love to be, but I feel like that takes a lot of the fun out of reading
and time. For sure, but it takes you out of the story too. Yeah, I agree.
There's only one book that I've read that I thought, you know what, I really would have liked to have studied that closer, and that was To Ride Hell's Chasm by Jenny Wirtz, because it was worth the study of. Yeah,
you gushed about that. You made me want to read that soon.
I friggin' loved it so much.
Yeah.
And so at the end of each book, I will write an essay on the book and my experiences of the book, and then that will tailor to. I'll put some of that on Goodreads. I will then change it to be a script for a video review if that book is getting a video review. Most of the indie books will get one. And then I'll also edit it to be a written review over on Epic Indie.
Okay. So when you say you write like an essay, in what format or context? Is it more like a journal entry of like, here's how it was, here's how it went, here's what I liked, here's how I felt, and then tailor that into a review? Or what was it? Is it formal?
normally, basically, what I'll do is here's what the story is about.
Okay.
Here are the elements that I liked. Here is if I didn't like something in particular. This is my criticism of it, and then overall thoughts, and move on.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Yeah.
Illborn got like a 2,500 word rant.
Is that right? So I wish I could take the time to do that. I don't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm compelled to do that. So most of the time I'm not, and I just flip right to the next one. Hey Austin, how's it going? But yeah, I wish I could. And there are times when like I said, when I do, but I feel like it's funny. If you go back, like that's why I started BookTube, is to be able to diarize a little bit and give my thoughts and try and articulate what it is that I was thinking or feeling and what I liked and what I didn't, and kind of just like you document the whole journey, right? But I'm not doing reviews as much, because as you get onto BookTube, you realize that reviews take a lot of time to do the book and the author justice, right? You can spit out a review and be like, it was great, or it was shit, whatever. But to actually do a good review, that takes time and effort and thought. So I don't do a whole lot of them. I'm starting to, and I'm going to be doing more and more, but I don't do them as often as some other people, and they don't get a whole lot of views. There's a specific segment of people that like that. And there's an even smaller segment of people that like the spoilery stuff. Most people like the non-spoiler stuff. When you do non-spoiler stuff, it's kind of hard to talk about everything that you internally want to, right? So I don't know. I find I do less and less of them. I want to do some, but like more, and I have one coming up soon, and actually that might be a joint review with my wife, which would be fun, because we read 11/22/63 together. Yeah. So we might give our contrasting opinions a bit. So that'll be fun. So yeah, BookTube is hard. It's a lot harder than I thought it would be, but so yeah. Now, do you consider yourself on AuthorTube or both? Like, what is AuthorTube a thing, or WriterTube?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. I do not consider myself a part of AuthorTube, because I actually have to be writing what I want to produce to the world to be there. Yeah, no, definitely just a booktuber for me. It's all.
Yeah. So who would you lean to as like an inspiration for you as an author? Like who did you read and go, I want to do that?
I was talking to Mark about this last week. I don't actually pull a whole lot from authors. It's more music that I will draw inspiration from, and it's not necessarily lyrics or anything like that. It could just be a snippet of an instrumental. I'm like, cool, I can write a scene to that snippet. You can
picture, yeah,
very visual.
So it's really funny, and I'm probably not alone in this, and this will be a little bit embarrassing, but it's because of the wine, so whatever. But I'm probably not alone in saying this, but I like music, and I'm one of the people that I've always liked photography and video and videography and that kind of stuff. And I always imagined, like, when a good song comes on or a good riff comes on, and I'm driving in my car and the windows are down, like I'd imagine what the movie scene would be to accompany that song, or what a good commercial would be to accompany this music or this track. Right. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And so you listen to music and internalize it and feel something, and then it inspires a scene or a story or something, or?
Yeah, so I've got like, I know that everybody who writes is like, I've got 1,000 ideas in in a whole bunch of folders, but I wanted to write a YA/new adult series about transitioning without, actually talking about transitioning, and do it via sort of
a different way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that whole series, so it's a trilogy in my head, was outlined to the Artemis album by Lindsay Sterling, which is mainly a violin, so it's a classics pop hybrid. And I was like, I can visualize this book being written to this album. So from the first song through to the last song, that is how it played out in my mind. And that's how the outline is. And
I think you'd be pretty unique in that. I don't think you'd get that answer from a lot of people. Would you say? Like, that's pretty interesting. So would you say you're a music person? Like, you're an audiophile, a music aficionado, maybe? Like,
I don't know. I love music, and I pull a lot of inspiration from music. But if you ask me what genres I like to listen to, I'll be like, everything. As long as no one's screaming at me, I'll listen to it. So
Yeah. I listen to
can't be
absolutely everything.
screaming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Did you ever think in grade school that you'd grow up to do book reports for fun?
Okay. Gen story time.
Nerd.
When I was in school, I would when you create games for yourself as a kid, I would pretend that I was in school doing school things. So I've just been a nerd from birth, essentially.
Yeah, a birth nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of us. I've always been kind of a school person too. I feel bad for people that didn't or don't enjoy school. Like it must be, can you imagine being forced to do something for like a minimum of like 12 years that you hate? Like some people can just do it. Some people enjoy it. Some people just don't fit and they detest it. I feel so bad for those people because they exist, and like school's not for everybody, and
absolutely
it can be very difficult.
I think it was interesting because like my childhood wasn't bad, but there was stuff going on which wasn't excellent for me or my sister at the time. So school was the escape. Yeah. So I looked forward to getting up and being out of the situation that I was in for 6 to 7 hours a day. So I enjoyed school for that aspect of it. I wasn't, supremely academic or anything. I did okay. Right. But I
just appreciated it for what it gave you. Yeah, I understand.
I was like, excellent. Don't have to be there anymore. So I'm going here.
Yeah, I bet a lot of people can feel that for sure. Yeah, you know what, Roger? That is a good point. Like it's this. Like no one's gonna go back and look at your fucking October 2021 TBR. Like, I mean, they might, but like probably not. But they'll look at those reviews, and I'd like to do more once I get a little bit more well read with certain authors, more like how to read or why you should read this author. Like I did a Blake Crouch one that I was pretty proud of because I've read enough of his books where I think I can, and they differ enough where I'm like I can kind of steer people depending on what they like to one starting point or another. So you're right, those are the gifts that keep on giving for sure, those reviews. But at the beginning, and Baron, oh thanks man, and Baron will say that those review videos don't do well at the beginning, but they start to tick up and they kind of continue. So for sure. Yeah. Do either of you play chess? I don't play chess. I used to get creamed by my cousin who was actually good at it.
I suck at puzzles, David. I really, really do. And I have no patience. So I don't know if that comes across on my channel, but I just don't have any patience. So playing chess, Rachel has like tried to teach me. I'm like, I don't care. Flip the king. I'm done.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
Yeah. If you do that, I can do that. Well, then do it. Like, I don't care. Like,
just do it.
Yeah. So David does jujitsu, as do I. And it's jujitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is often called human chess, physical chess, because it's very strategic and it's very much a game of technique and leverage, and it's very interesting. And that's what I like about jiu-jitsu. It's not force, it's not high impact. I've done those martial arts in my life, and I'm old and decrepit now, so I don't. But jiu-jitsu is very physical. It's called the gentle art in some circles and stuff, and in like Brazil and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it's beautiful and it's very powerful, but it's very much a game of strategy and being kind of a technique or a move ahead. And that's what I love about it. And I bet Dave can probably agree with that. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. Yeah, that's what I hear is like every trilogy is kind of contained. So like if you like, it's good because like if you like her, you might get a good payoff from each one separately, but then they tie together. And so if you don't like one, you might like the other standalone, and then you might like the whole thing together. So I don't know. It's a very interesting series. I was always confused about her series because like they connect, but they're all separate. And I was never sure which series have some of the same ties or same characters and stuff. So yeah, it's to someone new to Robin Hobb. I mean, there's tons of videos out there, but to someone new, it can be kind of overwhelming, to be honest. Yeah, I'm
it's nearly done. There's a sniff in that glass.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm doing. Oh yeah, Roger, I thought you read Assassin's Quest. If I agree, Rachel, because I'm doing Assassin's Quest. Are you rereading it? What the hell? Did I miss something? I thought you hated it. What is happening right now? Yeah. So do you read while listening to music? Can you read while doing it? I can't have anything on in the background.
I can't do anything else even if Rachel's
Neither can I.
Podcast, I have to leave. I cannot hear something else and read.
Yeah, like if my wife's watching a show and it's a little bit too loud and I can't quite, even if I'm doing audio, like if it bleeds in, I just can't.
Yeah.
I just can't. Yeah. And I'll do audio if I'm next to her, let's say cooking or cleaning or whatever, just because I can't. Because I can't sit and read with her if she's watching something because I can't. Yeah. So I put in the headphones and even then I can't sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
Rachel owns me, just to be clear. Like
good.
I'm Rachel.
That's the way it works. Okay. Cool. Yeah. There's always a direction. Yeah, I get it.
I'm glad that someone else actually knows who Lindsay Sterling is.
So I'm embarrassed. Yeah, I actually don't. What's up, Nathan, by the way? Good to see you. Yeah, I don't know Lindsay Sterling. And I'm going to look it up now that you've mentioned it. So
she is incredible.
Is it like orchestral? Like
it's pop. It's a hybrid. Yeah, I would probably call it classic pop.
More pop. Cool.
So she's a string artist, and I think she went on America's Got Talent or something ages ago, and Simon Cowell was like, "Get off, you've got no talent." And she was like, "F you, I'm going to show you that I have talent." And she bounced back. And
wow,
she just creates this incredible fusion of pop and classical violin. It's awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
I love strings. I cannot play them, but I love strings.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you are not necessarily always the biggest fan of Stephen King endings. Now, without spoilers, and I haven't read The Dark Tower, what is your opinion on that ending? Because I hear it gets a little bit meta, gets a little bit crazy. Did you read The Dark Tower and did you like it? Because that's a series that I want to really get into. I have some friends that are very close to me that are huge Dark Tower fans. Not even huge Stephen King fans, but like huge Dark Tower fans. And I want to read that.
I read it a long time ago. I'm probably due for a reread. It's one of those series that I will reread because there's so much to it. I think a lot of Stephen King, you do get a lot more on the second time because there's a lot of nuances that just are hidden if you're not looking for them.
Right.
And the second time you read it, it's they're there to
give
you more.
Gotcha.
Than that. I liked most of The Dark Tower. People shit on Songs of Susanna, and I cannot remember why people didn't like it. I don't know if Bonnie is still in here, but I can't remember if she liked it because I talked to her while she was reading.
I think she just wrapped it up, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
And I loved a majority of them. The last book is probably the one I remember the least about.
Okay.
So that
tells you something. Yeah. I'm
I didn't hate the ending. I thought it was quite poetic, but a lot of people hate it.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I know I was watching Mike's weekly update, and he was touching on the fact that Mike Flanagan has had this passion for a long time to try and pick up The Dark Tower and do that. And he mentioned that he would like to do The Dark Tower and then steer away from kind of that weird ending and kind of just keep it in its own world or its own thing. So that would be kind of cool. I grew up playing teacher and playing doctor and playing banker and playing barber and cutting my dad's hair and stuff. And he's bald now, so he probably blames me for that, but whatever. I what was your strongest subject? Is that a stupid question? Was it English? Was it writing? Like, were you good at math? Like, which way does your brain work?
Was I good at math? No.
I know.
I did, like, we had Math A and Math B, and then we had Calculus as like three separate subjects. Math A was like practical maths. You would use it in everyday life. So I got really good grades in Math A, and they're like, well, you should probably move to Math B and do, you're getting A's here, so why don't you challenge yourself? And I was like, fine, and then failed every test I ever had in Math B. Like, why did I come here? I didn't do particularly well in school. I really liked film and media. I did that as a subject, and probably social studies was the other one that I really liked.
I did too, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, probably my best class was probably social studies because it was just I like people. I like to know what people are thinking, what makes them tick. So. Yeah. I've done an awful lot of postgraduate stuff. And I always entertain the idea of going back. I romanticize the idea of like getting my master's and all this stuff. And I have huge respect and admiration for
for Roger, who's finishing his PhD and stuff. And like, I always think about that. Yeah. But it's just, had I started earlier, because I went back to school when I was a little bit older and started basically a whole fresh career and did as much as I could in terms of designations and stuff within that field. But it was later in life. And so now I'm married. We're thinking about having a kid, like all that stuff. If I had time and money to go back, I think I would. I mean, no one ever has the time and money to go do like a PhD, but because that's a commitment and a half. But I always think about that. I'm kind of an academic at heart. Like I don't mind school. I like learning. And I think it's for that reason that I fill my time with other things. Like booktube was an exercise in learning how to use this equipment and how YouTube worked and how to edit a video and how audio worked and how, stuff, right? And get better at reading and get better at articulating what it is that I've read and all that stuff. So everything is a bit of an exercise. Like I like studying languages and stuff. And I always start new hobbies and get very into them and stuff. So yeah. What do you do outside of booktube? Like, what are your main hobby? Obviously you read, you write, you do all that stuff, but like,
that's basically it. The only other thing I really put that much effort into is the gym and working out and exercise. And I eat like crap, so it doesn't show. Unfortunately.
I would disagree, but I need to. So yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So I work, a 40 to 50 hour week at my day job, 100%. And then I put that 40 hours into reading and doing this stuff because it's what I love. And now Rachel and I are opening, a new business next year within this sphere. So that's where my energy is. I really don't do a whole lot else. I'd like to tell you that I'm a gamer, but I lose interest in half an hour. That's why I kind of do.
Yeah, I do it in like snippets for sure. Like I'll get very into a game. I'll give it like a couple weeks, and then like I said, I bounce around a lot. It is what it is.
When you were saying that, you could read 2 or 3 hours in a day, but you don't do it in a whole sitting. You do it in 20 minutes.
Does that sound weird to you? Yeah.
No, I do the same thing. I cannot sit and do anything for an hour. Like an hour is probably my limit to be doing.
An hour is my limit. If I'm really into a book, an hour is like okay, fine. But then I gotta take a breather, take a walk.
Yeah, I'm like, I just need to do something else that's not sitting in this position.
So here's the funny thing. So I'll continue reading, but what I'll do is I'll sit down, I'll read, I'll enjoy it for half an hour, like you said at the max, and then what I'll do is I'll get itchy feet, like you say, I'll put on headphones, I'll start cooking dinner, or I'll go do some laundry, or I'll, something, right? I'll take a walk, but that's kind of how I roll. So yeah, I want some of those nachos. That sounds good. Yeah, jiu-jitsu is awesome. I love it. But let's go back to your business. So I'll let you talk about it, but it's in the editing sphere for indie works, right?
Yeah,
it's exciting.
So I can't give you too much about it, but I can tell you the why we've done this thing. So over the last sort of 18 months, I've become pretty passionate about indie and self-published works. And like I was saying earlier in this chat, I feel like there's so many people that have these wonderful stories to tell, but it can be quite overwhelming to then go out and be like, oh shit, I have to do XYZ to get this book out anywhere in the world. Like I have to do so many things to be able to do that. And it is so expensive. And talking to some indie authors who have just put all of their savings into, getting something edited or getting a cover, it's sort of heartbreaking when it comes back and they don't see the return that they were expecting. So the idea behind this business is to couple copy and line editing. Rachel is now doing her master's in copy and line editing, so she's got a qualification already, but she's going to further that education and offer copy editing, line editing, and proofreading services to indie authors for essentially a third to half of the cost of what's currently on the market. And we're going to do this in a different way than the market is currently structured, because a lot of the time you'll get editors who will give you a cost per word, and we're not going to do that. So we're going to basically ask someone to get a chapter, and we'll dictate how much work this will need. And by we, I mean Rachel. I'm the marketer, so she actually does the stuff that pays.
Right.
And she'll have a look at those chapters and sort of get an idea of how much work needs to be put into it. Offer different types of edits, so very light, moderate to a hard edit to the author. Say what you want, what's going to work for you, and just help them to get their work out. At the very least, you need a line edit to tidy up. And that's basically where an editor goes line by line and looks at grammar and
mistakes, right?
And just makes it a lot cleaner. So that's what she'll do. And then we're going to couple it with marketing, which is my department and what I've done for my whole life, and try and get ARC readers, beta readers for people and start putting out those reviews and just take that pressure off these indie authors. So I don't want to take anybody who's already has an editor. That's not what it's about. It's about letting more people get their work.
Have access. Yeah, 100%. I'm losing my mind right now. The fact that Nick even knows Hickson's flow with the go thing that he said, that's amazing. So I'm surprised that so many people even know what jiu-jitsu is, really. I mean, I guess it's a little bit more mainstream now, but yeah, I don't know. I think, so he hated Royal Assassin, which is crazy because a lot of people will argue that that's the best one. So I don't know. But yeah. Austin, have you not tried Robin Hobb? That's kind of crazy.
I think you'd like it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I know, it's crazy.
She's a good dancer.
So, yeah. I got to check her out, man, for sure. So I actually DNF'd the Gunslinger too, but I wasn't really giving it my all. I read a couple chapters. I read actually about probably a quarter, which is not very much because it's a short book. And I was like, meh, I'll get back to this, but I never did.
The Gunslinger is rough. It really is.
Yeah.
It is rough.
I've heard. Now, back then I didn't know that it gets better and not to judge it by that book, but I didn't know that. So.
It's so important for the setup of the other books, but it's a slog. So that 150 page book will take you a month to get through. Yeah.
Roger's kind of pet peeve is when a lot of stuff happens off page, and Hobb tends to do that for sure. So yeah, I don't know, but Roger, what's your PhD in? You can probably explain it a little bit better, but it's basically I know it's science, I know it's medical, it's biochemistry or something crazy, biogenetic, I don't know what that, biochemist, thank you, perfect, right there, bang. Yeah, that's awesome. Basically, Roger is super smart.
Roger's my smart friend. That's what I...
Yeah, for sure. So I want to touch on a little bit about, before we go, because we'll probably wrap it up soon here, because it's about encroaching on 2 hours, and people want to probably look at this on playback and not have to sit through 4 hours of people talking. But we're having a good time, and this is about us, not them. So I do want to ask you before we go, just a little bit about BookTube, because you and I are both kind of new-ish, and we're kind of doing our thing for our own reasons or whatever. And I'm wondering how, why it seems like every day I wake up, I get a new video from you, and I'm always excited. And you manage to fit in reviews and wrap-ups and TBRs and buddy reads and vlogs, which I know take a lot of time to film and compile. How do you do that? How do you put out so much content? What's your schedule? Are you regimented? Do you go, I'm recording every Saturday morning for 3 hours and then I'm going to edit on Tuesday? How do you do this? Because it's fucking hard.
So I am a planner. I to the point where when I went to therapy many years ago, they were like, you have to schedule relaxed time because you don't know how to do it. You need to put in your calendar, I'm relaxing between 1 to 2 p.m. So
I'm a little bit the same way.
Yeah. My whole day is pretty much planned out. So at the moment, I've got 3 months of content planned, including
planned, but not ready to go.
No.
Because I would be so mad at myself if I have 3 months of videos, no problem. They'll just come out when they come out. What? No. How?
So I tend to film on a Saturday, so I'll be filming later today for the week. So I'll plan out what I have, and then usually during productivity sprints, I'll be working on video stuff and writing up reviews ready to go. And I tend to do 2 sprints a week. So this week was an anomaly. I only had 4 videos out this week because I took a week off sprinting. So I was like, okay, instead of 2 sprints, I'll chuck in 2 extra videos for the week. So I'll plan out. I usually just plan a month in advance. I've only done 3 months this time because we're moving and a whole bunch of stuff is up in the air. So at least I know that I can get 2 videos a week out, which is the minimum of what I would like to have on the channel. And then I'll normally film on a Saturday and edit on a Sunday for the week, and then take the working days of the week off.
Can you record when Rachel's home, or do you need to schedule time? I can't. My wife's in the other room right now. I can't record a video. I can do this because 100%, no support. Oh, I love you. No. But it's funny because she, like, I should be able to. And right now it's like, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to my friends. I'm having a chat, whatever. But when I need to sit down and put like booktube Theo on and explain what it is that I want to explain, have like a bit of a script, I can't do it. I don't know what I'm going to have to get used to it, but I just can't. So I schedule it for when she's not here, which is ridiculous.
Look, at the moment, we have a huge house for 2 people. We live in a 4-bedroom house for 2 people.
You have to brag, but it's fine. Yeah, no, I get it.
It's ridiculous. We have a lot of space.
You bought Andrew's huge house that he sold to buy the books. I get it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And now I can't buy any books anymore because I've got Andrew's house. But yeah, so we have enough space to be. We're also like both very independent people, so we don't need to be in each other's pockets at all times anyway. So we just
in each other's pockets.
She's laughing at me. Yeah.
I gotcha.
F up. She's like, that was dumb. Down the other end.
Yeah, but you have some of the best bloopers that I've seen. I think more people need to do that because everyone thinks that it just works out. It doesn't, like it at all. So yeah. By the way, yeah, congrats, David. He's doing his he's going for his particle physics PhD soon. So that's pretty sweet. So congrats, because that's sounds like stuff that I wouldn't be able to do. But you got into jiu-jitsu in 2004. Dude, I had no idea you did jiu-jitsu. That's amazing. So we can stay friends. Yeah. So what if you're still on here? I wonder what belt you are, because you've been doing it probably on and off here and there, like a lot of people do, because it's a commitment for sure. But what belt are you that you've been doing this for so long? That's amazing. That's really cool. But yeah. Oh, sorry, Kevin. Too late, man. I would have you on, but this is Chris's moment.
Don't take it away from me.
We're trying to get him famous. Yeah.
That's one of my big goals for next year, is to stop being so scared about doing these things, because like interacting
What do you
with
mean?
humans
Like chats?
Yeah. So I did one. Roger actually instigated it. I don't know if he's still here, to get me on World Hoppers last.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, about LGBTQIA plus representation for Pride Month.
Sure.
And I was like shaking during that live because I'm so anxious about interacting with people in this format.
No, hang on a second. Hang on a second, because you're really good with you're a people person, and I get it. But is it the live part of it? Like, is it the other people are watching us right now part of it, or is it you and I, or is it a group thing? Maybe
the safety barrier of the
just talking to a camera.
Just removes that safety. So that's the only part where I get anxious about it. But even like commenting on videos, it normally takes me about 20 minutes to hit comment on something. So I'm like, I don't want people to think I'm dumb. So I'll like sit there on your videos. I mean, there are a couple of people like you and Roger, I now know we're just mates, and it's fine.
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah.
Don't have any hang-ups.
I get that. Do you overthink a lot? Probably, yeah.
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 David, I noticed your question a little while ago about what I would change about the trad industry, the trad publishing industry. I don't think accessibility for people is basically the only thing that I would change about it. I think they have a market, and there are people out there who indie publish and publish through their own publishing houses and self-publish because they want to, and they get that control. I think if you go the trad publishing route, there is a lot of control that authors do lose, unfortunately, with their own work, and things have to be changed. So if I had to change anything, maybe have it's their projects. It's not fair for someone else to come in and say do this
doesn't adhere. Right. Yeah.
So accessibility and also controllability for the authors who are having their works.
Do you think there's a problem? With the uprising, not uprising, but like the appeal of like Kickstarters and obviously self-publishing, like for the financial part of it? Do you think there are gaps in the way traditionally published authors get compensated? Like, is that a problem? Do they not get enough of a cut? Like, forget about the creativity side of it. What about the financial side? Do they get paid enough?
I don't know. It's not. I don't really look too much into trad publishing these days, but I don't know what money authors see from their works.
I'd be curious, you know.
Yeah, me too. And you hear that authors have signed a six-figure deal. Be like, is that six-figure deal per year? Or is that six-figure deal to cover, 3 or 4 books in a series? Because then that author is then pressured to have those deadlines and those time frames, which it works for some people. Like a lot of people that I've talked to who have self-published have tried the indie route first. Have tried the trad publishing route first.
Right. Yeah.
Because, it does take some pressure off the author, because then the control is with somebody else, but it depends on if you want that control with somebody else.
Right. Yeah. It's important to distinguish between work and control. So they take a lot of work off your plate, but at the cost of losing the control, right? So yeah, I wonder how much creative control people want, but maybe I'll write something one day, and then I'll send it to you and Rachel to shit all over it.
And I'll pass it to Rachel. I'll be like, "That's great, Theo. See ya."
Yeah, this is at the highest payment tier because of the amount of work that's going to go in. I can tell from chapter 1 that this is trash, and I'm going to have to basically write your book.
I don't know if Rachel's still here, but the poor thing had to. So I went back recently and started a master's in counselling because I thought I liked people more than I do. And she
I heard you say that. Yeah.
She had to edit all of my assignments, and she used to doodle little pictures on it with facetious comments, and I just got one back that said no, start again. So if you want your book edited by Rachel, she's honest.
You have to be in that industry, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I wish you a lot of luck with that. That'll be really. When are we going to hear more about that? Obviously, it's a bit of a
2023. So most of the stuff has been purchased and it's on in working in the background. So Rachel and I work on that during the week. And again, by we, I mean Rachel does most of the work and I go, that looks pretty. So I do my part essentially. But I go out and talk to authors. So we have the first manuscript in, which is cool. So Rachel will do that. And probably early 2023, I will do an introduction video on my channel. Cool.
Rachel said she would lie to me if I was a client, which is good. Which is welcome.
Exactly what you want.
Yeah. So we'll leave this on a final note of 2023. You're excited about that. What else are you excited for 2023? What are you looking forward to? What are you excited to read that's been on the docket for a while? What about booktube? Other stuff that you can talk about?
Yeah, so my biggest booktube goal is to stop being scared of interacting with people and to start reaching out to people who have higher sub counts. I've got a fairly low sub count. I honestly don't care about the numbers. I just want to talk about books all the time.
It is what it is. Yeah.
I've met so many lovely authors and interactions with authors. So my goals for booktube are author interviews.
Yes.
I want to start getting author.
I would love to see that from you because that would be perfect. Yeah.
I've got 2 lined up. So I've got 2 authors. One's got a book coming out in January that I did a beta for, and she is going to be one of the first. And then an author just sent me a couple of books. So I said, hey, I'll get to these in February. Do you want to come on and do an interview then? So
sweet. Very cool.
Do that. And then interaction in terms of life stuff, just to make sure this move happens and I'm not broke by the end of it. What about you? What do you want out of the next 2023? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so 2023 is probably going to be a little bit crazy. So I just left the job that I've been at with for 7 years. That's great. See, Rachel's going to need to correct my preposition stuff. Anyway,
it's been 2 hours. Your brain's it's all
too much.
Now.
It is. So yeah, I just started a new job. That's going to be really the focus if I don't want to be homeless for the next while, and really get up to speed and really try and make an impression and do well, because I'm working very closely with one of my best friends, and so I want to make the whole team look good, and really he's the one who kind of brought me on, and I don't want him to be a liar, right? So I want to do a good job and make that work, and so that'll be good. And also we're every now and then we start the discussion about maybe starting a family and when the right time would be for that, which is there's never going to be a right time for that, but we're getting to the point where maybe that's around the corner. And booktube's going to just whatever. I have a bunch of read-alongs planned and I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. Jiu-jitsu, I want to get back into it. I took about 8 or 9 months off with a really bad knee injury. I tore my meniscus pretty bad, and I probably should have had surgery, but I'm a little bit stubborn, and I was like, let me heal, it'll work. And next thing you know, it's 9 or 10 months later, and I'm just starting to like feel better. So I'm going, but every time I go, I need a little bit more time in between to really recover. So I'd like to keep some consistency there. I'd like to lose a little bit of weight next year and kind of do, I bounce back and forth, up and down a little bit. Want to be more consistent with that. Stay physical, go to jiu-jitsu, and maybe get my purple belt next year, which would be a huge accomplishment in jiu-jitsu, because that takes quite a few years. So that would be kind of cool. So, life stuff, family stuff, work stuff, booktube stuff, and just try and keep my head above water and be an adult. So
family conversation's a big one to have.
Yeah, well, so I'm 30. How old are you, if you don't mind?
31.
So 31. So you understand. I'm 35. My wife just turned 35. So and my parents had me a lot later in life. So my parents tried to have me for about 10 years and couldn't, and resigned to the fact that maybe they just won't have kids, and that's fine. Thank you so much, Nikki. And so they had me quite late. And so I'm 35. My dad is 73. Which is quite a bit older than a lot of my peers, right? And actually, my wife Natasha's parents are a little bit older as well. So we're thinking now's probably the time. I don't want to be too old when I have a kid. I also want I'm the only child. My dad's an only child. We don't have a huge family, and most of my family's in Greece. So I want my grandparents to enjoy and be able to spend time. And I never really knew my grandparents. They were quite a bit older, and they were in Greece. I never got to see them. So I want my kids to have a relationship with their grandparents that I never really got to have. So anyway, that's me. That's what I'm thinking about next year, but we will see.
Talking because Leslie just popped in, so.
Yeah. Hey, oh my God, Leslie, what's up? How's it going? Really? That's very interesting. Yeah. So I'm curious, Leslie, if you were the only child, are you the youngest then? I'm curious. But yeah, thank you, Roger. It's really nice. I really appreciate you guys just hanging out and having Kris. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's Saturday morning over there, and you probably could be doing a lot, more interesting things than hanging out with me. But anyway, I'm going to go have more wine. Leslie, I'm sorry that we just missed you, but I'll go catch some of your videos now instead. Yeah, she's the baby. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I wonder how many siblings you have. We'll talk about that another time. But anyway, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys all soon. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.